Hi, testing, testing, testing. Am I here? Am I present? Is this audio good? All right. Seems like it is. So, hello everyone in communications 301 with Caselli. Hi, today I will be doing an informative speech on tsunamis, what they are, most importantly, how they form, and what are the four major reasons why they form in the first place. A tsunami is a lot of waves created by any body of water by movement, especially sudden movement. These movements and sudden changes of movement help create a substantial amount of energy. Things like earthquakes, landslides, volcanoes, and meteorites help affect and create tsunamis because they are oftentimes the only things that generate and create tsunamis. So, how a tsunami is created, generally. So we have the sea surface, which is the water waves, normal water waves, the sea floor, which is like the bottom of the ocean, and the fault line under the ocean, the fault line. A tsunami can be generally created by asteroids and meteorites, earthquakes, landslides, and volcanoes. But the main thing here is that the fault line will move the seafloor upward, which will create the water displacing and pushing upwards, which will create a really massive tsunami wave because the wave is rising super high in the air physically. What do I want to say about? Oh, so for example, asteroids and meteorites. Once the debris, the rocks hit the surface, that will create a lot of rapid movement, and rapid movement or any type of movement, sudden movement, is how a tsunami is created. In the case of asteroids and meteorites, they will hit the surface and they will create sort of more in the case of earthquakes. In the case of earthquakes, they will create really rapid vertical movement, and that will create a lot of waves. The force and the magnitude, depending on the force and the magnitude of the earthquakes, that will create a lot of tension and movement, and it will create tsunamis. Here's the interesting note, though, is that when a tsunami wave approaches shallower water, that they will become even bigger and higher than imaginable, because we oftentimes think that tsunami waves coming from a distance from away from shore in our cities and land, that they will die off or something, if we just use intuition or common sense. But in reality, they actually grow bigger. And this is oftentimes the reason why we see sometimes that our cities are being destroyed due to tsunamis, because they're growing bigger. This is one reason. The waves actually physically get even bigger. They actually get even more potent and dangerous for our society. The four major reasons why tsunamis form are due to earthquakes, landslides, volcanoes, asteroids, and meteorites. How do earthquakes create a tsunami, you might ask? Well, an earthquake, which is caused by movement and a shift in Earth's tectonic plates, crust, and mantle, as well as inner core, typically also cause the water to be moved up and down. This is the cause for the tsunami wave, which is the effect due to displaced water, which acts under the influence of gravity. The water is moving all over the place due to the movements of the earthquake, and thus the water has no place to escape or be at. Therefore, it is displaced, which is why sometimes we see the water come onto our land and cities. The tsunami also depends on the magnitude of the earthquake. The Richter scale, which is the main scale that we use to define how large and how effective an earthquake is one big factor into why an earthquake will create a tsunami. For example, let's say in a hypothetical situation that there is a 7.5 magnitude earthquake or higher. This in turn will create a large deformity of area on the seafloor ranging from 621 miles or longer. When the seafloor is damaged, that will in turn displace water to the sea surface. The sudden movement and rapid vertical movement of the water will then create waves and even a series of waves that will cause a giant and large tsunami wave. So think about it like this. The seafloor is displacing a large amount of water that doesn't know where it wants to go. Then you have the earthquake, which is caused by plate tectonics. Two plates converge and the heavier plate is crashing into the lighter plate, but the heavier plate is placed under the lighter plate, which is not where it's supposed to be. The two plates themselves displace at the subduction zone, and this in turn creates a fault line. When the earthquake is active and happens, the tsunami is created. A tsunami is generally not created by seafloor movement that is horizontal. It has to be vertical and forceful movement. You know how I keep on saying how tsunamis are created and earthquakes and this and that are created physically and concretely? Well, energy itself cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be transferred from one form to another. The potential of energy and force and a way to create waves is created because the displaced water is so high that it is transferred or energized into, or turned into, not turned into, but transferred into kinetic energy. So how a tsunami is created by an earthquake? Most tsunamis are created by undersea earthquakes, or earthquakes that happen underwater. These earthquakes are oftentimes, but it doesn't have to be underwater. These earthquakes are oftentimes found because of the natural way they form underneath the land floor and actually near the ocean floor and the fault line near the ocean floor. So we have the Mariana Trench, we have the fault line underwater that is created from an earthquake, an active one or one that's happening. We have the bottom of the ocean floor, probably the Challenger Deep. So all this is super deep underwater, and once we get to the land, this is probably the Earth's crust and like the inner core and the mantle. Like we're getting there. So when there's an active earthquake, that can really, all these things can interact with each other and really cause, once an earthquake's happening, that's going to cause a lot of pressure and a lot of movement underwater. And that's going to in turn push the ocean floor, the bottom of the ocean, or any body of water really, because any body of water is where a tsunami can occur. Even water in your bathtub, for example, you know, lake, river, whatever. But the ocean is a prime example. Oh, and earthquakes that happen underwater, they oftentimes naturally occur that way, and that can really be the prime suspect for why a tsunami occurs. Landslides help create tsunamis because they are caused by large earthquakes, which then causes tsunamis to be created. So we see a recurring theme that earthquakes can really help shape and cause a chain and effect of how landslides and thus tsunamis are therefore created. The water in the oceans or other bodies of water, for example, a river or a lake. The reason for this is because of the debris from the landslides themselves. When rock falls into the water, it creates a lot of friction, tension within the surface water currents. Volcanoes can help shape and create enough force to create a tsunami because of the uplifting of water and tension and movement that a volcano can create. It can create a sudden disturbance in the flow of water, causing the rapid movement of water, as well as having enough required force to move the water high up enough to create a massive tsunami wave. This is oftentimes the case if the volcano takes place under the water. Lastly, asteroids and meteorites can impact or disturb water while they are falling from the sky due to momentum from the falling debris. This is due to the impact and force that the debris can actually have physically on the water. The body of water will then create a tall wave, thus resembling a tsunami. Thank you all for listening to my speech. I hope you guys learned a lot about tsunamis and relevant information to the topic, and I wanted to thank you guys for listening. Thank you. Bye.